Hello, Star Citizens. This is Captain Zed with Zedexis Gaming, and welcome to my review of the currently flyable Drake Golem. So, first off, these are my opinions, and your opinions may be different than mine, and that's a good thing. Second, am I biased towards this ship? I always try to look in, before I review a ship, figure out, am I biased? And I think this one I might be, and that's just because I like mining. So I might give this a little bit higher score than maybe she deserves. But the Drake Golem, what is it? This is the first starter ship in the game that is an industrial starter ship. She's specifically made, if you look at her size, you look at the cost, this kind of fits right in, with some of the other starter ships, kind of like a Titan. But she's made to be an industrial starter ship. She is made for somebody to basically start the game with this ship, and a game package, and get right out there and start mining. So we'll have to see how this plays out, but I think this ship, for the money, is really, really cool. So let's take a walk around. We'll do what we normally do. We'll take a walk around to the ship, take a look at her, and then we'll take a look at what she can do in the verse. I always do take a look at combat. Of course, we'll take a look at mining. Other than that, she doesn't really have any other significant uses, and that really is because she doesn't have an interior. So there's very little else you can do with the ship other than mine, but that's exactly what she's designed for. So, okay, so let's take a quick look here. So components. So I have pulled out the mining bags to show she does have, this is a newer ship, so we've got some component access here. We got some here in the front. We've got some up top here, and we've got some on the sides. And this is a little interesting from the standpoint of, I think this is the first ship I've seen where in order to get to the components, you have to do something to the ship. And in this case, what you have to do is take out the mining pods. So these mining pods, and in order to do that, you have to get into the ship. And of course, now I'm going to completely screw up putting them back in. There we go. It's the front one. So you have to go into the ship and hit Alt-K to release ports, and then you can pull the mining pods out, and then you can get to the components. This does make component access for this ship obviously much more of a pain than if they were just sitting out in the open. But this is a really small ship, and they had to kind of fit things somewhere. So that's what they decided to do. Coming around to the front of the ship, you've got inventory. And if you open up the inventory, she's got 900K micro SCU, which is actually enough for, like, maybe 2 or 3 armor suits. So could you use this to run a bunker with? You could. But obviously it's not going to be, like, as good as having like an Avenger Titan or something like that with you. And then she's got higher up, she's got a little gun rack, and you can see you can do a pistol, and then you can do like a med pen or a tractor beam. Come around to the other side. Up high, we've got another weapon rack where you've got an assault rifle size weapon. And then down low, she has a fuel port, which we don't really use right now, but I guess that's for later. Other than that, we have a pilot seat. So since this kind of works like a fighter jet, you can't really put anything else in here. So like I said, this ship doesn't really have an interior. As far as the cockpit goes,
Hello and welcome aboard your Drake interplanetary craft.
it certainly is not
Your systems are online.
the most, a cockpit with, you know, the most amount of visibility in the world. It's not bad to the sides. It's certainly not bad in front of you. You got a little bit, you know, beneath you. You have two MFDs, you have your radar, and then some of the buttons in here are physicalized. Not every single one of them, but a lot of them are. Come down here on the left side, we've got some physicalized buttons. Over here on the right side, we've got a couple of physicalized buttons. So, all in all, I don't think it's a terrible cockpit, but of course, you know, cockpits are a very preferential thing as far as how you feel about them. I would have to say, you know, you're always going to end up comparing this ship to the Mist Prospector, and the Mist Prospector, I think, does have a much nicer cockpit as far as being able to, you know, have a wide range of vision, but the Mist Prospector is also much more expensive. So there are trade-offs. Okay. So now that we've taken a look around the ship, let's see what she can do. Hello, and welcome to the combat portion of the Drake Golem review. I test every ship for combat capabilities, regardless of whether the ship is designed for combat or not, because face it, this is Star Citizen. There's every chance you might end up in combat. So it's kind of good to know, I think, going into combat, what you got. Drake Golem. Give you the breakdown here. She's got 2 size 1 guns, 2 size 1 missiles, 1 size 1 shield, 1 size 1 power plant, 1 size 1 cooler, and size 1 quantum drive. Her pitch, roll, and yaw is 43, 43, 140. Her maximum SCM speed is 203. Boosted, it is 280. So, pretty weak in the firepower department. Pretty weak in the shielding department. Oh, didn't look and see. Hit points of 17,300. She's not bad when it comes to maneuverability, and she's got a decent chunk of hit points. So we are currently running a VLRT. This is the lowest level ship-to-ship bounty you can do. Now, I enjoy piloting in Star Citizen. I'm just not very good at it. So please keep that in mind. Pilot with more capabilities than me could obviously get more out of this ship than I ever will. But I've had this ship out for combat, and so far VLRTs seem to be just fine with me. And this is our target. And he is... thought that was a Mustang. Now, I did change out the guns to attritions just because, well, they're attritions. Might as well. But, we'll see what we can do here. Alright, there we go. Yeah, that's a Mustang. Hullen Edge Gentry. I love some of the nicknames in this game. I think this is completely hilarious. I also like how they mix like German first names with Japanese last names. You're like, I think your randomizer's on the fritz there, guys. Okay. Let's see if we can...
Shield system is in.
Yeah, he was going for the ram. That's what the AI likes to do. Do a little side strafing here, see if I can get him to... Ooh, I got him down. Make sure I'm not crashing into the ground. Since you can't read an altimeter in these ships anymore. I mean, there's an altimeter there, but what font size is that? 0.001? Yeah, you give it a boost, you can get it to turn. I'm also not running decoupled right now, so I could be running decoupled and be turning faster. No, I got it red. Yeah, two size ones are just not enough to... If this was any kind of ship with like any firepower shooting back at me, or like, God forbid, there we go, ballistics, I would be toast. But here you go. Oh, and the game just froze. Oh, there we go. Now we're back. VLRT. Is this ship capable of doing a VLRT? Yes. Is it good at it? No. In general, I would say if you're put in a position where, you know, you pop out of quantum and, you know, somebody wants to put you in combat, I believe the smart decision is to run. That's about all you're really going to do with this ship, unless you're fighting an AI that's, you know, a really small ship like that Mustang we just killed. All right, so now let's we've finished up here with combat. Let's move on and take a look at mining. Hello, and welcome to the bunker running portion of the Golem review. I hadn't intended on doing this part, but things kind of worked out. Can the Golem run bunkers? Well, friendly ones, it turns out, actually, it's not that bad at it. First of all, it's a small ship, so you can get, you know, park right up close to the door, no matter kind of like what garbage is laying around. And now, even though the ship doesn't really have an interior, because, you know, it's like a fighter jet, you get in and you're in the seat and that's it. The key for this ship as far as bunker running goes is the external storage. And if I go over here and so with the 900K storage, you're actually fitting in a decent amount of stuff. grab this little box here. There we go. So this is a full armor set and 4 rifles, and we're only at 23%. So you can actually get some decent stuff in here. While, of course, other ships would be better than this ship at running bunkers, you know, if this is the only ship you have in your fleet, or maybe one of the only ships you have in your fleet, she definitely can be used for these purposes. All right, on to the next part of the review. Hello, and welcome to the mining section of the Golem review. So, can the Golem mine? And kind of most importantly, you're probably going to want to compare this to the Mist Prospector. Small, relatively nimble ship with VTOL. So as far as, you know, positioning the ship goes, I don't think there's any issue between the two ships. I think the Golem does fine there. I think everything when it comes to mining is going to come down to the mining laser. Both ships hold the same amount of 32 SU of goods, so that's not a differentiator between the two ships, but the mining laser is. The Drake Golem has a bespoke mining laser. It's called the Pitman, and the Prospector comes with an arbor, which only puts out 1,890 for the power. But you, of course, can upgrade that to anything. So I think you probably should look at the Golem and compare it to upgrading to something like a Helix. The Golem is on the high end of power, puts out 3,150 power. The Helix puts out 3,150 power. Both lasers have 2 gadget slots that you can use, you know, for the laser. And then when you start looking over to the other characteristics, the Pitman is plus 25% resistance, plus 35% laser instability, plus 40% optimal charge size. So the charge size is increased, but everything else is, optimum charge size is plus 40%. So the charge size is increased. The charge rate is decreased, so it takes longer to get there. And inert materials is plus 40%. The Helix is minus 30% resistance, so it's going to be able to do harder rocks. No increase in laser instability. A decrease in the charge size, which makes the Helix harder to use. No effect to the charge rate. Only plus 30% inert materials. So if you look at both lasers, kind of I think what you see is the Pitman laser on this ship gives you access to a lot of rocks with the high level of initial power of 3,150 power. But it's simply never going to be quite as good as breaking everything as a maxed out Helix, you know, with all of the modules that you can throw on it. So, but that doesn't mean that it's a bad laser. It, because it does have 2 module slots, you know, I threw 2 focus 3s in it, which means that I'm going for the super duper large charge size, which is kind of what I call lazy mode. For mining in the morning while you're drinking coffee and your brain still isn't, you know, completely working. So let's do a little mining here. Let's see, we are in fracture mode. And as you can see, my charge window immediately opened up. Now let's see if I can manage to do this without blowing up the ship. Whoa! There, notice the instability. So, like I said, I think the way they designed this is it's not as good as a maxed out prospector with, you know, the highest level laser and highest level modules. But it gives you access to a lot of the mining universe, which is, I think, what you would want in a starter ship. All right, I gotta cut back because this is bouncy a little bit. I think I got it. So yeah, slower charge rate, higher resistance, higher laser instability. You know, it makes it difficult to do the really high-end rocks, but it doesn't mean that you can't try. And there we go. All right. As you can see, very capable mining ship in better hands than mine. You definitely can get more out of her. Like I said, you know, I've got the easy mode modules on, but if you put the power modules on this, you could go after some big rocks. It would just be a little more, you know, challenging as far as you're going to have a higher level of instability and smaller windows. So with all that said, let's go on to the end of the review. Alrighty, welcome to my final thoughts on the Drake Golem mining starter ship. All right, so we've taken a look at combat. We've taken a look at you know, can she do things like bunkers, and we've taken a look at mining. So just to kind of recap, downsides: we don't have an interior. Basically, we just have a pilot seat. The mining laser is bespoke, but it does have 2 modules, so you still have some flexibility with it, but it's still a bespoke mining laser. She has component access, but you have to remove the bags to get to them. So now with all that, what's the good side? Well, good side is she's small, she's nimble, she's very good at mining. In fact, realistically speaking, there's very little difference in mining performance between this ship and a prospector. And a prospector is over $100. This ship is $60 standalone. It's $75 with the game package. So cost effective wise, this ship is very cost effective. It's a starter ship, so I think it was put in the game with the idea of bringing people into the game, you know, getting them directly into mining, and then, you know, with the idea that they would then possibly move up to a prospector or maybe even a mole. I actually think a little bit of the opposite is going to happen. This ship does everything a prospector does, except it doesn't have an interior. So if you're not using that interior, if you're not bed logging all the time in a prospector, this ship just absolutely crushes it as far as, you know, your value for what you're paying for. So I actually think that some prospector owners may dump their prospector and have one of these. Because it does like I said, it basically does everything a prospector does. As far as a rating goes, I'm going to give this a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's really close to a 4, but it does have, you know, the downside of the components being hidden. How much is that going to play into things? You know, the downside of not having an interior. I mean, if you want a drink, you can't take a drink in this ship. You have to basically go fly to, you know, a little mining base somewhere or something. But is that a real huge problem? It makes trade-offs, but you have to make trade-offs when you're making a ship this small. So I think the trade-offs that it makes actually are very good. I'm excited in the future to see what they do with salvaging. What kind of a ship can they make that is a starter ship for that? But overall, excellent ship. I would recommend this to anybody who, wants to get into mining. I think as a starter ship, it works okay. You are giving up some things, but overall, this is a solid design here. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed my review. Please do all the things. Leave a like, subscribe, hit the bell. If you are new to Star Citizen and you are going to buy a game package, please use a referral code. I will have mine listed in the information below the video, but if you don't use mine, please use somebody else's, because you will get extra in-game money from using a referral code. And other than that, if you have any comments or ideas or suggestions for something you would like to see me review, please go ahead and do that, and I will get at those as soon as possible. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day in the verse.